So what happened at the Capitol, right? When I watched that, the first thing that came to mind was privilege, in such a way that I felt like if that had been Black people, that we would have seen a very different um, unfolding, right? So I'm just curious. I'm just curious if like if you saw that. I mean, because I've had conversations with other white people who are just like shocked that that's what I saw. So I'm just curious, like if you were to take that example, would that to you be like a good example of, yeah, that probably is privilege or
I
white?
mean, absolutely. If you look at if you look at all the protests that happened over the summer, you saw a lot of social media heat from the sides that are they're worried about the community, they're worried about things, horrible things happening, and there was a lot of news that skewed people's minds in different ways. So, but how are you supposed to express a certain thing when if you stay quiet and polite about things, nobody listens. If you do something more radical to raise more attention, then everybody gets upset about it. But in all reality, most of the people who are upset about it are unaffected in their own personal lives. I mean, they might live out in the country and still be thinking, well, society is completely crumbling. So I absolutely do. I do agree. I think that if it was all Black people at the Capitol for the same reason, then I absolutely think that that people would assume that it's more violent than it was, even if the same situational thing happened. I also think that politically, what happened at the Capitol, no matter what your affiliation is, I think it's disappointing as an American, and I think it's disappointing as a patriot who wants to believe in the system but doesn't trust a lot of the people in charge. I grew up in a military family, and it was really sad for me to see something like that happen. Not to change the subject to anything political, but the reality is, if allegations from the losing side could overturn an election, then we don't have much of a system. We don't have much structure anyway.
Right.
But I think it was very disappointing to see as an American, and the kind of heat that it puts on the Republican Party, and the kind of further division between two political parties. Because the American way, we're supposed to elect an official because we don't have a king, you know? So
Right.
Yeah.
I'd like to see more Americans from all places just have more faith in each other. And I did think that was disappointing. But going back to the white privilege, I think that you're absolutely right about that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And for both of you guys, I mean, and for all of us, I mean, I'll get to Madison and Ruth right next, but I think, Josh, again, you're bringing up a really great point that for all of us, I think we, instead of looking deeper into why these things happen, we just want to point fingers. We want to say, oh, that was Republicans, that was Democrats, that was Trump, that was, BLM. I mean, and we're trying to like bifurcate these groups instead of saying, why is it that so many of us are mad in so many different ways? Whether it's about race, gender, politics, money, whatever, people are upset, and we should try to figure out why and understand the reasons why and how to solve those reasons instead of blaming the group that those people belong to. So I guess, Madison, I'll start with you. Like, what are your kind of thoughts around the infrastructure of that?
Of blaming like the hate in general that's going on and whatnot.
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking, Adam? I just want to.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it ties into what Joshua was saying. I think it's really interesting. White privilege as a subject, right? It's a lot to handle, and you hear that, and it sounds jarring. But I think boiled down to it is what you talked about earlier with the gas station thing. It's a worry you didn't ever have. That's the privilege, is you never had to worry about it, right? Or I didn't have to worry about that as a white person. And I think the levels of the anger from the different protests and whatnot, and what the groups are getting upset about, if you're saying groups, right? If you're saying sides, if you're saying Republicans against liberals, I think a lot of people are being misunderstood in a lot of ways. I think even though I full-heartedly disagree with every single thing that happened at the Capitol, as far as it's just preposterous and ridiculous and the epitome of display of white privilege, in my opinion. I think that that side doesn't see it like that. They don't see it like you were saying, Adam. They think their country is being taken away from them. So, they're going on that rampage, or that. I understand the being upset in that way if you felt like that was truly what's happening, but in the Black Lives Matter protests, people are being killed unjustly. And, and when we're putting it at that, and we're comparing the two subjects, or comparing all of these subjects, it seems ridiculous to be like, one is right, one is wrong, in that sense. But I feel like, yeah, there's so much I could get into. I'm so sorry. I'm trying not to get political. But yeah, I think as far as the anger goes, and everyone feeling so disappointed or frustrated at the point that our country is at, is in a sense just kind of comforting at the same time, because it's like, we know something is wrong, we know something's terribly wrong, and we need to fix it. And I think everyone can agree on that in different forms, in different ways, and it's not just right and left, and there is so much in between that people agree on. Human rights, right? There's a lot of people, whether you're Republican or left, or like, there's something going on with human rights and we need to fix it, and I think hopefully that provides more hope than division. But it is definitely something that's frustrating as a American, and watching this and being embarrassed of my country and being like, oh God, why can't we just get it together? I think there's so much that you want to do, and as a person individually, but it does feel very divisive right now. But I think we can all agree that something's wrong. We need some change, and we need to just work on changing it ourselves and in our groups, and hopefully that feeds into the larger.
Ruth, any thoughts on, I guess, white privilege, what happened at the Capitol, and how your views on all those things tie in?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the Capitol, as everybody has said here, was a disgrace. It was disturbing and unsettling to see. I think going back to the question of why are so many people so angry, I think a lot of times people are experiencing life in their own silos. And so if things aren't going right for them, they start looking outside to try to blame somebody. And instead of like looking to blame other people, it should be those bigger systemic issues, or politics that need to be changed, or laws that need to be changed, or just like government that needs to be changed. And it is not a race. It is not a group of people. It is like bigger issues. And that's where the focus and the anger and the forceful change should go towards. Going back to white privilege, something that Joshua said earlier, he was saying how he grew up in a school that was more like middle class. And I think so much of what is missed in white privilege is the fact, if you grow up there, even if you felt like you were kind of an outsider because you weren't on that same level, you still made friends with those people. You still made connections with that. And that still set you up for more success, which people in lesser poverty do not have. And that is another source of privilege. And I know you still worked hard, and I know you still did, and you could have not done any of that and not been where you were, but you were given opportunities that other people didn't have because of your location. And so that is a piece of that privilege.
Well, and to maybe clarify a little bit of that too, I think there's also a difference between the privilege you got and the privilege that wasn't taken away from you, right? Because there's two sides to that as well, right? That sometimes a person can go, I wasn't privileged in terms of money or access or connections, but maybe we don't also know how bad it could have gotten, right? So there's it could have gotten better, it could have gotten worse, and we don't know where kind of the marker is.
Hey everybody, I'm Adam Khalil. Thank you so much for listening to this video. I definitely want you to subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more content like this. But if this content had any value to you, click the like button as well.